I am John Leinemann.
Do you feel joy when you work with your hands?
Uh, yeah, I've been making stuff ever since I was a kid. My dad was a carpenter, and he had a workshop at home, and I would go in there when I was 7, 8 years old and make my own toys. So it just is something I've been doing for a long time, and I just really uh, just find a lot of pleasure in making things out of nothing, basically. And yeah, I find really time just disappears on me when I'm out there. I zone out and yeah, just make things. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your artistic practice or processes and the pieces that you've made for the Made by Hand show?
Um, my artistic practice is mainly I go into something without really much of an idea. I might have an idea of how what I want it to be, like a box or a bowl, or and but usually I'll let the wood tell me how it wants to be shaped. Um, and the one piece that I have in the show, it's called the walking vessel, and that one was just happened to be a kind of a serendipitous um, situation where the piece that I was making, the vessel, the vase, the bottom of it fell off because it had a bark inclusion. So it wouldn't stand up anymore. So I came up with the idea of putting legs on it, and yeah, it turned out really well. I was very happy with it. So.
So just thinking about that and just kind of elaborate even a bit more about how the materials speak to you, would you say that you're guided by the materials that you choose, or are you in as you're choosing them, are you also inspired as well?
Um, it's a tough question. It's yeah, I kind of pay attention to the shapes in the wood and see um, how that looks, and um, the way I'm feeling at the time can play into it. Um, I do a lot of experimentation. I just it's like, well, I've never seen this before. Let's try this. It's Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I have shelves full of things that were experiments that didn't work out, though there's maybe an element in there that I like about it, and I keep them just to kind of see what I did, whatever 5, 6, 7 years ago. So
That's when you do start to make a piece, and we kind of talked about the process. Do you design it on paper, or do you just kind of have it in your mind's eye?
um, it depends what I'm doing. The majority of the time, it is I call it composing. I just make it up as I'm going along. But I have actually just been commissioned by a lady to make a chess set, which I had to design all on paper first, just to get the proportions and the feel right, and it worked out well. I've started on the set, and I've done almost half so far, and yeah, it's working out better than I thought it would. So certain times I have to design it out, but for me personally, it's most of the time it is I just kind of wing it.
Does your work convey a message, intent, concept, or philosophy? If so, could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, reading this question a couple of nights ago, and I'm just like, I the short answer is no. I don't really have a message. I guess the message is that I like making things that look interesting or cool, even beautiful. Sometimes I've gotten many people to say, that or feel that my pieces are quite interesting, and but yeah, that's I guess is the message. But really, am I trying to convey a message? Not really, no.
Would you like to comment on some of your influences, inspiration, and the conception of your work?
Um, Influences, I would have to start off with my dad, because he was the one that originally put tools in my hands, and he let me play around in his workshop. So that was the start of it. My dad was the inspiration on that. And then as I progressed into wood turning, I found books by a wood turner named Chris Stott. He's the one that really inspired me into doing my original pieces, which were just turned boxes. And yeah, it was really the push to keep going on this. And yeah, there's a number of other wood turners, um, David Ellsworth, um, and then there's another woodworker. His name is Jim Krenoff, and I've actually done lessons with his student, which was Robert Van Norman, and he runs a school down on close to Seashelt called the Inside Passage School of Fine Woodworking. And just the really big thing about their philosophy is simple, very smooth lines. His one quote was, "A beautiful or a simple curve is a beautiful thing," and I try to really use that a lot in my work. Very simple designs, but keeping it beautiful.
What do you identify as? An artisan or an artist, and why?
And why? I thought about this long and hard, and I would have to say I do identify as an artisan, not an artist, um, because I don't try to have too much thought into what I'm doing. I'm not trying to convey a message. I think great art is trying to do that, and I don't. I just try to make interesting and beautiful things, and that's basically an artisan. So that's yeah, that's where I am.
Do you think that society treats artists and artisans differently? What do you notice about these preconceptions? Do you think one is placed higher than the other?
Um, yeah, I've been thinking about this question too. This one's a tough one for me. Um, because I'm not really in that community so much. I'm quite introverted, and I stay to myself. So this is a tough question. I would say yes, there is. Society does treat artists and artisans probably a little differently, which is unfortunate. Sometimes it's not great, but there is a good community out there which do support it, and it would be nice to see that growing.
The final question is, do you think being an artist or an artisan changes the value or price you set for work for sale?
Um, a very difficult question because this is always something that I struggle with. Pricing. The only thing I could think of is possibly having some sort of, and I know this is requires a lot of time from a lot of people, is having some sort of group that or a mentorship, you know, from people, and then work together on setting some sort of formula so that pricing, and then all the artists and artisans are kind of on the same page, and then it's not a race to the bottom anymore, because a lot of people are selling their stuff for not enough, and I've done it. I've sold my stuff for not enough money, and it's tough to make that decision about where you set your prices.
When you come up with that list, you let me know.
Yes.